Hi, welcome to AstroTalk and Tea. My name is Kelsey, and today we are here to talk about Virgo season 2021. So I'm a few days late in getting this video up. We're almost a week into Virgo season because it began on August 23rd and it will run through September 22nd. So even if you don't have strong Virgo energy in your personal astrology chart, we're all swimming in the Virgin's vibes for the next couple of weeks. So the things that we can all be focusing on are, number one, purification. So whether it is your home space, your office, your car, this is a great time. Virgo season is all about getting organized. It's about decluttering. It's about going through things and really using good discernment and judgment about whether you need to keep this or whether this is an item that you can lovingly let go of. It's a really good time to clear out and make some space. And then additionally, when we think about our physical bodies, that's huge. Virgo is kind of a sign that is very associated with the idea of health and wellness. And so this is a good time to sit back and take stock of, what do you put in your body? What do you put on your body? How do you treat your body? Do you get enough sleep? Do you have tools for stress management? Also thinking about too, your mental health and how you take care of that. All of those mental, physical, emotional. It's a really good time to focus in on how you can kind of purify your body, your energy, your mind, your emotions, etc. The second thing we can all be doing during this season is to get on a schedule. So, summertime is really fun and we're out and about and doing all different things. And a lot of times we kind of lose track of schedules and routines and habits. And so I think Virgo season is a great time to reclaim that for ourselves. And that will also help a little bit with that organization piece as well. It's no surprise that in most states, in the United States anyway, school begins during Virgo season. That's kind of the start of the year because it is really a good time to sort of wind down the fun and playfulness of Leo season and to get ourselves back into business with that Virgo energy. The third thing that is good to think about during Virgo season is being of service. So Virgo is very associated with how we can use our personal talents and skills to serve the world in some way. And that's going to look so different for each one of us. But if perhaps, during summer, maybe you took a step back or a break from some of the ways that you serve your family, your community, the world on a larger scale, now could be a really good time to get back into the routine of those things or to investigate some new ways that you can creatively use the skills you have to help serve others. Fourth thing would be manage the details. So Virgo is an extremely detail-oriented energy because it's an energy that's Virgo is very analytical, very left brain. So it's very good at analyzing and making judgments and discernments and deciding, yes to this, no to this fits, that doesn't fit, all that type of thing. So it's a really good time to look at the details of whether this pertains to a work project that you have, a personal hobby or project, whether this pertains to the details and organization of your family. It's especially because not only is the sun in Virgo, but until September 13th, Mars is also in Virgo. So it's we can put a lot of energy into the minutia, into the details. Even if you're someone who typically is not detail-oriented at all, if that's something that you hate, now is a really good time for you to harness that because you're gonna have that boost from the sun and Mars in Virgo to help you do that. The fifth and final thing that we can all be doing during this season is to work on judgment. So there is good judgment, which allows us to make rational decisions about things that will be good for us or not good for us. But when we come into the space of judgment of others and judgment of self, that's where Virgo energy can get a little out of control if the energy isn't healthy, if it's not balanced. So this is a good time to kind of think about the ways that you judge others and maybe working towards releasing some of that judgment. And when I say that, I don't necessarily mean that all of a sudden you have to agree with everyone or think people are right about certain things. It doesn't mean that you give up your convictions or your passions. I think forever through the rest of the world, it will be so important to have open, honest conversations in which people may not agree on things. But if you can leave judgment out of those conversations, I think it's just that much more productive and working towards positive outcomes. So trying to release judgment of others and just reflecting on if you think you have some of that or not. But then also the big one is self-judgment. So, Virgo energy is very particular. It's very picky. And so I think a lot of times that gets turned inward and we become very harsh and critical of ourselves. So even if you're someone who doesn't have a lot of Virgo energy in your chart, I do encourage you throughout this season to kind of look at the ways that you treat yourself, the ways that you talk to yourself mentally, and just start to notice, like, are you supportive of yourself? Do you love yourself? Or are you finding that maybe, oh my gosh, I do have some negative self-talk, or I'm pretty down on myself right now? And then, there's 1,000,001 different tools for helping you kind of work with and release some of that self-judgment. Obviously, working with a professional, like a therapist or counselor, can be great, but there's a lot of other ways that can be done as well. So during this season, I just encourage you to start to notice where that may be happening for you. And then when it feels right, you can perhaps take some action on working through that a little bit. So aside from those kind of 5 things that we can all be practicing, when we think about our sort of quote unquote spiritual practices for this season, bringing up yoga first, because Virgo is such an earthy, grounded type of energy, I really encourage that during this season that you go back to the basics of your practice. So your meditation practice, your breath work, foundational type asana, physical poses, all of that I think is great because Virgo season is so detail oriented. It will kind of allow you to dive a little bit deeper into some of those quote unquote more basic things that maybe we don't revisit as often as we should. I think also just, can you get back on a routine or a schedule? You may be someone who always has and you always practice 1 or 2 times a week, and that's great. Or you may be someone like me where in certain seasons you're really into it and in other seasons you just completely let it go. So if that is you, I would see, can you challenge yourself maybe to set aside time 1 or 2 times a week to come back to your mat, to come back to your practice and to your breath. If you want to work with crystals this season, I highly recommend rose quartz. It is such a stone with such a soft, loving, yet powerful energy. So it's really good for helping to release nervousness and anxiety. And Virgo is textbook anxious, nervous, not every single Virgo, but many of us are that way. So if you struggle with anxiety and nervousness, I would recommend carrying around some rose quartz in your pocket during the day, maybe sleeping with it under your pillow, something like that. And then additionally, it's really good for that judgment piece, for kind of softening the heart and helping you to release judgment either of others or judgment of yourself and cultivating a little bit more self-compassion. So rose quartz is a great stone for this next couple weeks. And then lastly, if you're someone who works with herbs, I'm going to recommend focusing first and foremost on the digestive herbs. So in the physical body, Virgo is connected to the stomach and some of the digestive processes. So during this time, either our digestion might be really strong, or if it's kind of been on the brink and we haven't been paying close attention to it, this is sometimes when the digestion can break down a little bit and we have more heartburn, and we feel like our food isn't digesting quickly, and whatever the symptoms might be, more bloating, etc. So working with digestive bitters, taking those before you eat meals could be great. Things like gentian and artichoke and dandelion, all those types of herbs would be good to look into. Again, keeping in mind that if you've never worked with herbs before, you definitely want to consult with a practitioner before you do that. And then secondly, valerian root, I think, is a good one for Virgo season for 2 reasons. First and foremost, that it helps calm the body and the mind. A lot of people will use it for the purpose of sleep. And it can kind of help us with some of that nervousness and anxiety, especially if that tends to creep up at nighttime. But additionally, I read somewhere that valerian root is really good for helping to release judgments. And I wish I could remember who said it, so I can't quote it, unfortunately. But for that reason, I think it's a double whammy, perfect herb for Virgo season. So looking ahead now to the astrology of what's going to happen between August 23rd and September 22nd. a lot of things are going to happen, but just focusing in on the big things here. First and foremost, we have 5 planets that are in retrograde right now, all 5 outer planets. So Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, they are all retrograde during the entirety of Virgo season. And I think that's really perfect in a way. You know, I sort of feel like a lot of times the universe, it's not by chance, but when a planet is retrograde, you know, we are given the chance to dive back into the symbolism of that planet, what it means for us in our lives. It's a good time during any retrograde to review, redo, to take another look at things connected to the meaning, the symbology of those planets that are retrograde, and see, oh, okay, what did we miss the first time? What can be improved? What can be redone? Okay, so that pairs very well with Virgo season, because the whole idea of Virgo is improvement. We are striving towards perfection. Obviously, perfection is a dangerous word, especially for a Virgo, but this idea, we are continually wanting to fix and improve and make better. So the energy of Virgo season is actually very compatible with the energy of all these retrogrades that we have right now. So it's a really good time to be working also on, from an internal perspective, on certain things in your life. We may not see the outward manifestations of what you're working on for a couple months, but it all starts in here. That being said, the next big event that we have in Virgo season is the new moon, which falls on September 6th. So that's Labor Day in the United States. It's a Monday. Well, yes, of course, Labor Day is always Monday. So it definitely is a Monday. So September 6th is the new moon. It's going to be at 14 degrees of the sign of Virgo. So if you know where 14 Virgo is in your personal chart, that's great, because you can look at the house and kind of use that as a guide for setting your intentions as well. But if you don't know where that is in your chart, then just generally, we can look at setting intentions around how you show up in the world, how you are of service to the world, and also, you know, anything around health and wellness for yourself personally. So your own health, your wellness practices, fitness and exercise, you know, any intentions that you want to set for yourself around that, I think this is a really, really supportive time for that. That being said, Uranus is making a beautiful trine to the moon, the new moon that we have, which means that there will be kind of this fresh impulse of energy. So I think also our intentions, we can make them very future oriented. And I think additionally, this helps us think outside the box a little bit about what intentions we want to set, and then what steps we're going to take to help manifest those intentions in our lives, externally speaking. So Moon and Uranus, that's a nice flowing energy. Additionally, this is a really good time to ground down. Mars and Pluto are making a trine. Again, it's kind of an easy flow of energy between those planets, and that means we have the potential to tap into tremendous power and will and strength and ability to get shit done. But we're gonna have to be really grounded in order to take advantage of that energy. So at the new moon and those, you know, one day before and 1 or 2 days after, I really encourage you to get on your mat, involve yourself in your spiritual practices, go outside and spend time in nature, you know, put your feet in the grass, hug a tree, hug another person. I find that to be very grounding. Maybe buy yourself some flowers and take a bath with flower petals in it if that's an option for you. You know, there's a lot of different ways we can ground down, but if you can get yourself really centered and aligned in the present moment, this new moon has a very cool potential for helping us tap into our own power. Lastly, at this new moon, I think we can expect some good surprises. This new moon is my favorite lunation of the year probably so far, because I feel like it's the first big moon event where we haven't had like crazy aspects of the moon and really challenging stuff going on. So at this time, not only is Uranus making a nice angle to the moon, but Jupiter and Venus are going to be in a trine. So this is like joy and pleasure and love and feeling happy and positive about the future, you know, all these things. I think it's going to be a really nice energy. So just, you know, keeping an eye out for what information surfaces around the time of the new moon. Again, we may get surprises or things that are unexpected, but I feel strongly that they won't be super challenging. They'll be welcome. They might even put a smile on your face. Again, you're not gonna win the lottery, but just little small things. I want you to just be very present and aware around September 6th and just notice what happens for you. Moving right along towards the end of Virgo season, we will have a full moon in the sign of Pisces on September 20th. So almost at the very end. It's going to be 28 degrees of Pisces. Again, you can find that in your own chart if you know how. Pisces moons are a very spiritual time, so I highly encourage you around September 20th to tap into whatever your spiritual practice is, however you feel part of and connected to something outside yourself. It's a really good time to dive into that at the Pisces full moon. Additionally, this moon is going to get a good aspect from Pluto. So I think at the full moon, our emotions may be intense, they may be heightened, but not in a hard way. I see this more like, Pluto always gives us the element of wanting to transform, to tear down what was old and what's blocking us and to kind of evolve into something new. And sometimes that process is very challenging, but it doesn't always have to be. So since Pluto's making a nice angle to the full moon in Pisces, I think our emotions may be intense, but it will motivate us toward change, towards transformative efforts that ultimately will benefit us. Also, the full moon in Pisces is a hugely creative time. So if you need to tap into a little more creativity at work, a little more creativity in your parenting, a little more creativity in your personal hobbies, whatever you are an artist of, and that could be a million and one different things, you can really harness the energy around the full moon time to help give some creative impulse and impetus to your projects and the things that you're working on. And lastly, I just want to say that the Pisces full moon can be a very romantic, kind of flirtatious time, which is super fun. However, if you are single, I want you to enjoy those romances and flirtations and connections for whatever they are and what they offer you in the present moment, but don't expect them necessarily to be long term. So the week of September 20th, Venus and Uranus are making an opposition. So I find whenever Venus and Uranus are connected with each other, it's more like romance and strong feelings that come up really suddenly and you're like totally enamored with someone that you meet. However, typically, anytime Uranus is involved, the connections aren't necessarily meant to be long-term. So it's more like if you meet someone that week of September 20th who catches your eye and you're like, oh my gosh, dreamy, know that that person is coming into your life to help reveal something about yourself to yourself. That they're meant to shake you out of a rut and to get you inspired and thinking, but maybe not necessarily to be that long-term steady influence. Again, it could be, but my guess is maybe not then. So just enjoy the romantic, beautiful, flirtatious Pisces new moon for whatever that means for you. If you're just romantic with yourself, romantic with a partner, or potentially out there and meeting someone, it's a really good time to be in those vibes. So that is pretty much the overview of the energy of Virgo season. Again, keeping in mind we've got 5 retrograde planets right now. More about doing the internal work before things will manifest externally. We have that new moon on September 6th at 14 degrees of Virgo. And we have the full moon on September 20th at 28 degrees of Pisces. So I wish you guys a great Virgo season. I hope you get all your shit organized and decluttered and it helps you to feel great. Until next time.